big distraction with the endless line of new people coming to the classroom.
Okay, I'm good. We're live.
Are we set? Okay. Well, we've not formally started the show. It's not formally open yet. We've not had our national anthem playing, whatever, but we have a schedule to keep, and I'm going to do my best to push it and try to keep it. You all right?
Turn up your voice, because I'm afraid we don't have a mic.
Yeah, this is
Some
all the
things
voice
slip
I've
by.
got. Can everybody that's not deaf hear me?
Yes.
What? All right. Ask that every 7 minutes.
Every 7 minutes. I'm not sure what that is. All right. Okay, so who am I? I'm John Linville. Is anyone not familiar with me in some way? No? Of course, I'm a member of the community for a rather long time. I am also a participant in the Retro Challenge. Some people know me through that. Which, of course, is an international event of retro computing geeks. I've appeared at a couple of vintage computing festivals. Been here many times speaking. I'm also half of the CoCo crew. Who's heard of the CoCo crew podcast?
Woo! Yeah.
Anyone here because of the CoCo crew podcast? Yeah, okay, this one. All right, that's good. All right, and this, of course, this is Farb in the background. If you're not familiar with him, that's the main character in Farb. Anyway, so what are we doing here? Well, this is a keynote. Keynotes are supposed to set the tone for the event. That's what we're trying to do. Let's get up and talk about this. So let's take a look at why do we love the CoCo? What are we doing about our love for the CoCo? And how do we build on it? All right, sounds like a good idea. Okay, so one of the things that we do that we love about the CoCo, we love remembering things, right?
Yes.
Remember the CoCo. So we do that in a number of ways. We, of course, remember facts about the CoCo, the history, things that happened, specific details, model numbers, options available, that sort of stuff. And there's just nostalgia. There's just, remember being a kid and having fun with the CoCo, doing kind of fun things. And that's a big part for a lot of people, especially when you first start in the hobby. And then a lot of us remember relationships. We remember people we've known, people we've met along the way, people that come to CoCoFEST, that sort of thing. So let's talk about history. So how do we find and preserve the history of the CoCo? Some of it is basically word of mouth. Business accounts, websites that people have just typed up, CoCopedia, some degree Curtis's game site, that sort of thing. There are also archives that actually contain, the original documents or facsimiles thereof. And of course, we do some of the books. So here's an example. I'm sure you can read this in the back, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every word.
Just a little example. We have CoCoVGA and Computer Archive, TandyCoCo.com. These are people's efforts to collect information and spread it to other lovers of the CoCo, people that want to know. Some of these are collecting in the CoCoVGA Archive, of course, is collecting digital files, program files, documentation, that sort of thing. TandyCoCo.com, you familiar with that? So it's a forum site. CoCoVGA is essentially, it's a wiki. It's kind of like Wikipedia. Lots of good stuff. So if you haven't checked these out, I highly recommend that you do so. So the next way we look up the historical stuff is actually in the archive. Is anyone not familiar with the Internet Archive? We all have seen the Internet Archive. Most of us have used the Internet Wayback Machine to find an old website or whatever. The Internet Archive is great. So Jason Scott is the roaming archivist or whatever for the Internet Archive, also a retro computing fan, and he will accept basically anything you will send him. Scans of magazines, scans of articles, scans of books, whatever. If you don't want to scan them, you can send him the material. He will eventually scan it. He has an army of people who will set up to do the scanning. There's essentially no limit to what you can send him. If if you have something that isn't already available on the internet, you should send it to him. Or scan it, send the results to him. It's a great resource. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. The Internet Archive is officially organized as a library. So if you're wondering what are the copyright concerns there, well, it's a similar, libraries get away with a lot of stuff that you and I don't necessarily get away with in terms of, making things available for whatever. So they're officially a library. So if you're scared about posting the copy of the Manual of the Plateau of the Past on your website, send it to our Internet Archive and they'll do it. And of course, books, right? Probably all familiar with the book on the left there, Boise and Bill. If you haven't, please buy one and write a review for Boise on Amazon. Is anyone familiar with the book on the right here?
Yeah.
Ready Player One. It's a great piece of fiction. If you enjoy science fiction stuff, there's a passage in Ready Player One that, as a CoCo person, you will super deeply enjoy. It's great for me to hear. Let's just say one of our favorite games on our favorite computer makes a big cameo. So check it out. But anyway, this written word, this is the way we remember the CoCo. So, in terms of nostalgia, what draws us to an old machine like the CoCo? Well, sometimes you just want to show the kids, this is how things used to be, this is how we did it back in the old days. Sometimes you just want to reflect on how things have changed over the years, you hear a lot of times, we waste so much computing power today doing things that we don't need to do or whatever. Sometimes you really just want to relive the past, right? So sometimes you want to show the kids, Can you imagine, anybody have a school like this with the CoCos laid up?
Ones.
We had Apple too, but, anyway, sometimes you just want to show the kids that, hey, this is how things used to be. We used to load stuff off of these audio cassettes, and they say, "What's an audio cassette?" Anyway, but sometimes you just want to think about how things have really changed. You look at it yourself. So, is there really progress? I mean, it is clearly, in some ways, technology is leaps and bounds, millions of times processing power in computers. But is everything really better? Modern PC, you buy it, most people don't program it at all, even though there's more ability to do so today than ever for free. And most people they could not care less, right? Does that make the world better? I don't know. When I was a young man, I really thought that by the time we got here, that everybody would just be very fluently conversant in BASIC or whatever language took over. That it would just be common to talk about, we'll just use a for loop to do that thing that you're going to do in the office or whatever, right? But no, nobody cared, right? They care less about how their computer works than they do about how their car works. Seems strange. Is that progress? I don't know. This arrow here kind of looks like Red Hat stock, so that's pretty good.
Well, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. Maybe we want to relive the past, right? You look up your CoCo, you look up, whatever your favorite peripherals are, and there you are, you're David Lightman hacking into the Pentagon to play global thermonuclear war, right? It's legitimate, it's fun, it's a diversion. Not going to knock it. I think it's a great way to use the old computers. And this is probably, to some degree, this is kind of part of the emulator versus physical divide. Maybe the emulator people are a little less invested in having the big thing, but they might like that little touch of let's relive. I don't know. Big one here for me, relationships. Part of remembering the CoCo is remembering people that are associated with the CoCo in your life. Say friends and family, might have a favorite teacher. You might have a mentor that is someone that was important to you that you associate with that in your life. So, don't you love this picture? It's like the creepiest
Global thermodynamics award.
Children of the corn.
If you're one of these kids, or something, you remember spending that time with your sibling when you're not fighting, you're actually playing until somebody did something, then you're fighting about the game most likely. But that would be part of your life, something you'd want to remember. Right? But sometimes you remember a teacher. Now it's not CoCo related, but I remember my first teacher that set me in front of an Apple II and put me on the path that led to my eventual little career and fame and wealth and whatever this is. But, do you know who this teacher is? It's a TV show from the 80s.
Oh, you're head of the class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the guy who was also in WKRP Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Feet.
Anyway, or maybe it's a mentor, right? Maybe there's somebody, not a teacher, but somebody that was important in your life. We talked about on the podcast, I think in the last episode, where we found somebody talking about a different computer, but how they kind of learned that an old friend that had sort of passed out of their lives. They learned that they had passed away and they didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. And it's a bit of a tearjerker, but it kind of reinforces the notion that there are people in your life that might have been, especially for our generation or whatever, computers were a formative experience. And a lot of times our parents didn't know anything about them. But maybe there was that one guy down the street that did. And hopefully he wasn't a pervert. But maybe it was that old ham down the
No
street.
confessions,
So hopefully he can teach you a little more or whatever. Or whatever those weird OS9 commands are. Anyway, but part of what we love about the CoCo is about learning, right? There's different kinds of learning you can do with the CoCo. Of course, the obvious you can learn to program. You can learn to hack on some hardware. It's a great platform for that because they're relatively cheap if you do blow them up, and they're fairly simple. And before Arduino and some of the other microcontrollers came out that maybe take that role today, the CoCo and other 8-bit machines were kind of the only game going for that kind of thing, where you could get a whole computer relatively cheaply with good input-output. It used to be a good way to use them. Maybe now Arduino might be better. But anyway, so then there's other skills that you can learn using your CoCo. So programming for the CoCo, right? So the obvious programming basic. Most of us at some point with basic hit a wall. The obvious next leap is assembly. How many people have ever said, I want to learn assembly and then haven't? Right? Well, you can. It's there. It's not that difficult. We can walk you through it. Basic,
Talk you down.
you like the book. But you can go beyond that, right? There's some good logo implementations for the CoCo. There's Fourth.
Woo!
There are some fourth fans in the community.
Swearing at you.
That was Peter Brett. Pilot.
Yeah, nobody else used it.
I have a copy of Color Pilot at home. I figure I should do a text segment on that for the podcast. But there's a few other languages out there. Some of them are oddball. Boise gave us a kind of an oddball programming language this summer. I'm not going to say the name of it.
Kind of?
Had to use asterisks in spelling it for the podcast. But maybe if you want to program for the CoCo, maybe there's other things you can do. Maybe not even on the CoCo, but maybe you can use some modern tools or develop some modern tools. So anyway, if you want to do basic assembly, hopefully these are somewhat familiar to you. If you want to learn assembly language 6809 on the color computer, I recommend the Barton book as a stepping off point. It's not the be all and end all for everything, but it's an easy read. It's not bad. So there's some examples of other languages available. Color for I didn't get Brett's favorite fourth in there, but I'm sure Brett can direct you if you want to learn more about fourth. But you might do some modern stuff, right? You might work on emulators. We have a couple of open source emulators that work on. Most people love one and hate the other. Sometimes irrationally, whatever. don't know if you can see these. This, of course, is the drive wire. We've all used drive wire. Yeah, there. You might know what this tool is. It's a little small. This is called Dragon Block. This is from our friends across the pond in the UK. It's a tool for taking segments out of a cassette image file, a CAS file, and it's like if you have a couple of copies of a program and you're not, one or more of them are corrupted, you're not sure which, you can kind of mix and match the blocks. Kind of a cool tool that was developed this year. We had it on the podcast. Not in depth, but it was in the news segment. Anyway, like I say, you can do modern stuff or modern tools. What about building stuff around the CoCo? Obviously, you can do simple add-ons. Blinking lights is what I just dumb projects that are fun for you. You know, you've heard the term blinking lights before. Yeah. Or you can do major peripherals. Right? So simple add-ons. Blinking a little dark. So on the left, that's Jason Lee Steers USB adapter. I think Steve has an example of that, where you can use CoCo joysticks over USB to use with your emulators or whatever. On the right, so a joystick that I built for the CoCo. Not a big electrical challenge, but it's more of an arts and crafts project, but it's still fun, you know, something you can do, a little soldering, a little, you know, and it's fun to play with. Lincoln Lights projects, I have a couple examples here. On the left is a card I built that controls the laser projector. We had some shows here in the past. Bottom is, that's when I was constructing the sign you can see on my table. On the right is our new cartridge case equipped with the protocol that I designed that Mike has for sale at his booth. So please buy it from Mike so he likes you better. Anyway, cool things you can do. If you get the proto board, you can hook up some LEDs or I don't know, a motor controller, build a robot, whatever you want to do. It's cool stuff. And the worst thing that you can possibly do is blow up your CoCo. Well, you know, they're still available. You can still buy them $40 or less, right? Most likely you're not going to blow them up because they're actually pretty tough for the most part. So I encourage you, get something going, you know, build a project. Anyway, so now we have some major peripherals. One on the left is the new VGA adapter from Mark Marlette. There's probably at least one still available. Oh, out there, yeah. On the right, the top, of course, that's CoCo SDC, designed by Darren Atkinson, most of them built by Ed Snyder. Very popular peripheral in the community. Bottom right is the new multi-pack alternative that's designed by the guys down in Brazil. A great group down there that do a lot of cool stuff. So anyway, if you want to stretch your wings and fly pretty hard, you can do some cool stuff on the CoCo and, you know, build the skill there. And it's fun and whatever. But what else can you learn while you're dealing with CoCo? Also, I learned resin testing, making plastic cartridges. Resin. Well, didn't learn how to spell, but
If you're a programmer, you don't have to spell.
there you go. 3D printing, as John Strawman here. Obviously, there's other examples in the community too, but he's definitely an advocate for 3D printing. Multimedia production is something you can learn associated with the CoCo, right? So anyway, here's me casting on the left. I'm making a mold of a CoCo cartridge out of latex, and I didn't show the pouring of plastic, but they come out looking a little rough. You have to sand them. It's kind of a cool arts and crafts thing. Had those here last year. About 7 of them. A few people got them. It's a little labor intensive, so that's why there's none here this year. But anyway, it's a fun project. And now I know if I want to make something out of plastic, I know how to do it. Right? Thanks for the CoCo. 3D printing, right? We have a couple examples. Of course, Bomb Squad over on the right. Forget the guy who's doing the new CoCo SDC design. He posted in the Facebook group. Chris something? Smith, maybe? Anyway. Somebody else is obtaining Model 3 in 3D printed, a little model. I don't get that, why you wanna make a model of this stuff, but some people like little tchotchkes or whatever, more power to them, I think it's fun. I'd rather them do a CoCo than Model 3, but. For multimedia production, right? So we have, there's Lee's website is leaving here. Anyway,
Where's this?
you have people doing blogs. Some of those include videos, certainly pictures. Of course, Stevie is doing all kinds of videos, lots of cool stuff there. If you like CoCo, watching people play CoCo games badly. Lots of cool stuff there, but you know, it's all it kind of the CoCo gets you into something, but then you learn some other useful skills. It's fun, you know. But you know, ultimately, you just want to enjoy the CoCo one way or another. You know, you can enjoy the CoCo through using it. I find that spreading the word about the CoCo brings more people in to do other things, and I might either enjoy watching them do them, or I might want to do them myself. I didn't have the idea until I saw them do it. It's cool stuff, right? And of course, ultimately, it's about fellowship. So, get out your CoCo, put it to use, do something with it. You can have nostalgic fun, maybe you can put it to work, of course, you can make something new. So, what is that? That's Polaris, right? You just get out Polaris and play it. Fun games, as much fun now as there ever was, I think, right? Most of the games are. Sit down and play them. It's fun. Stevie enjoys playing them. So much he made 1,000 videos and put them on YouTube. Cool stuff, right? Or you can put it to work. And on the left, if you know what that is,
Extend
extend control, right? Those still work. You can still buy extend stuff. You turn the lights on in your house, confuse your gardener, whatever. I used to have one hooked up in our bedroom and turn the lights out at like 10:30 or something like that. And my wife always just kind of fiddle around and stay up a little later than I would. And so I put that in and turn the light off at 10:30. And kind of get her to like hurry to see that she could get into bed before the light went off. So use it to train your wife. It's fun. On the right, I'm not sure what he's doing with it, but he's at work and he's got his CoCo. Why not? Right? A good job allowed for that kind of time. Maybe using the account so they don't do it if you get out and play with it, right?
That's a cool job.
That's fine. Maybe you can make something new. You recognize this website on the left?
That's Jim Gary.
That's Jim Gary's website.
Oh, yeah.
There's no one busier in the CoCo or its related communities than Jim Gary, right? He's got like 1,000 games. It's not 1,000, but it probably could be 1,000. It's like 200 or 300 or something. He writes the ports games over in BASIC. Usually he targets the MC10 first, converts it to the CoCo. Sometimes he goes the other way. Lots of stuff, lots of cool games. Most of them pretty low res, obviously, but they're fun, you know, and he enjoys it. Cool stuff. The logo on the right stands for Retro Challenge. Get involved with Retro Challenge, kind of set your own project goals, so nobody's going to outdo you with the project. You just do your own. Then you work on it, you blog about it, tell people about it, and make something new, you know. And I made Farfall, you know, and other people do other things. Brett made global thermonuclear war. Cool, fun stuff, and you know, you get a little bit of feedback and publicity or whatever, and you have a reason to use your stuff, and it gives you a certain amount of cadence to your hobby projects, so it kind of keeps you going, right? So it's fun stuff. You want to spread the word. Tell people about how much you love the CoCo, right? So you can do blogs, videos, or podcasts, right? So we recognize these. I think it's
Nick Marentas.
Nick Popstar Pilot.
Retro Ports,
that's
Mark McDougal.
McDougal's Retro Ports blog. If you ever follow that, he does amazing work taking code programs for other computers and analyzing them and porting them over to the CoCo and the other computers. Pretty cool stuff. Alan's husband's blog is up there too. He writes a lot about both the CoCo stuff and Arduino stuff and some other random stuff. Of course, there's my blog, Making a Farfall. Anyway, you get out, you tell people about what you're doing, and people enjoy reading that. And they'll comment, and usually you'll enjoy their comments. Maybe not always. But, you know, it's fun. It's a way to interact, talk to other people. I know, we're probably all geeks, maybe some of us a little on the spectrum. So personal interaction is not always a strength for us, but some amount of it usually is enjoyable, right? So, all right, reach out. Of course, YouTube, right? It's amazing how much crap you can upload to YouTube, how much storage, whatever you can use.
I got all kinds of crap up there.
They take it, right? And so Steve's got his YouTube channel, I've got a YouTube channel, and lots of people do, Tim does. You can upload stuff that is entertaining to you, or that is informative to other people. Be about the CoCo or other things, of course. But just try it, do it. It's easy to get, you know, you're probably carrying a camera around in your pocket that can do the videos that can be on YouTube in seconds. Well, whatever you want, right? So make some videos about CoCo stuff. And of course, podcasts, right? There's I'll tell you, there's 3 podcasts that talk at least once in a while something about the CoCo. Floppy days. What's that?
That funny computer on the left.
Yeah. So Randy Kindig, of course, he's got Floppy Days, which is sort of a general vintage computing podcast. Occasionally, he's had you and I on for some CoCo and Boise for some CoCo talk at different times. Randy's also involved in the TRC and Trash Talk podcast, which is supposed to be more general TRC stuff, almost explicitly excluding CoCo because they said we were already too active for them to cover. Then they didn't have they threw in an MC10 thing in one of their episodes, so they may cover us a little bit. You may check it out. And of course, the CoCo Crew podcast. Of course, I invite you all to listen. We have a lot of people that download the show. I wonder where they are, but you know, take a listen. Give us some feedback. We love it. The only reason we make it is to keep the community up and that sort of thing. If you don't tell us that, then we'll get distraught and stop. So give some feedback. But anyway, you know, share your love for the CoCo in person. So you can do local meetups. There's other events you can go to. And of course, the events right here right now, CoCoFEST. So it's a little dark. On the left is that's Simon Johnson and Theodore Steeman.
Yeah.
They met up in Denmark and had a little 2-in meetup, played some Flappy Bird or whatever, and talked CoCo and had a lot of fun. Simon actually, when I was in Düsseldorf, Germany, he drove like 5 hours to come and visit me there. We had our little local meetup. Of course, on the right is the Brazilian club. They have their own kind of version of CoCoFEST. You know, it looks like it's been very successful these past 2 years. Looks like a great club. They do a lot of cool stuff. If you ever get a chance to go to Rio, try the time in for April, and maybe you can join in. Of course, you can go to other vintage computing events. There's a lot of them organized through the VCF, Vintage Computing Federation now, I guess. Something like that. They've got some reorganization there and took a lot of other organizations and pushed them together and renamed them and whatever, but I'm pretty sure that's the right logo. Vintage Computing Federation. They have events in New Jersey, Atlanta. They have one here in the Elk Grove Village.
They used to meet right here.
Yeah, they're going to have one out west. They haven't had one in a while, but they're going to have one, I guess, in the Silicon Valley area. So check them out. It's pretty good. Each one tends to have a little different focus. The one in New Jersey focuses a little more on like mainframe computers. But I think the Midwest one, I think, is kind of a Commodore group. But, you know, go check them out. They're the same kind of crazy, maybe a different flavor, but it's fun. Kansas Fest. You want to heard of Kansas Fest? So it's Apple II event. It's mostly a week-long summer camp for Apple II people. So if you can keep the Apple II off, if you don't mind the Apple II smell, you can go and you live in the dorm. It's literally summer camp. You stay in the dorm, share a shower in the shared bathroom, whatever, tents there. But you take your meals in the student cafeteria, and it's like wall-to-wall vintage computing, altitude, century, of course. But there's some Atari people that go and talk now. I went last year, talked about CoCo stuff. Lots of fun. So you might go, spread the word, tell them about the CoCo, maybe they'll come here. And of course, CoCoFEST, right? So I've been coming to CoCoFEST for 15 years, give or take. I love the event. Some of them have been a little less attended than others. We've had a few low spots. I think this is going to be a high spot. Looks good so far. But it's a great event. Made a lot of friends here. I've visited Boise at his house down in Louisiana. You know, make real friends and real life people. And Mike came and visited Boise and I, and in Atlanta when he came in, and he bought us dinner. It was great. Get Mike to come and buy you dinner sometime. Rich. Friends, you know, it's good planning, and it's kind of a, you know, well, Neil had his CoCoFEST memory as part of the podcast this time when he was talking about Moon Shuttle. You make memories, you make friends, and it's a great thing. So anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about CoCoFEST. Obviously, I highly recommend the event. So, in conclusion, anybody know this guy?
No.
He's not in
Tony.
here.
Oh, okay.
So, have you played with your CoCo today? I hope so. That's
Every day.
Borrowing the Atari slogan there. CoCo forever. Woo! Yeah, that's of course stealing the Apple slogan, but our personal slogan that I like the most these days is, hey, have you got your CoCo 3 yet?
Yes.
I hope everyone's got their CoCo 3.
Oh, yeah.
Here this weekend. Have a good time. I hope you're all staying for dinner. Enjoy it. It's the first time we've catered in. I think it's going to be a big success. Looking forward to it. I'm so glad you all could come. I hope you all can listen to the podcast if you're not already.
Yeah.
And like I say, CoCoFEST is what you make it, so let's make it happy, all right?
Yes, sir.
So, any other questions?
When is she speaking?
It's a caterer, isn't it?
So we're almost time for the next speaker anyway, so I'll go ahead and if you want to reach me, I'm pretty easily available. Email addresses and Facebook and that sort of thing. A few URLs you may want to check out. And that's it.
All right.
Okay, I need to move the thing up. Let's move up. We have another speaker coming.
They have it here now. That's how I wanted to do.
Let me squeeze it here real quick if you don't mind.
I wanted to go to VCFE stuff. My sister was getting married, so. And then I didn't do it. And I want to do it. I want to pick it up maybe.
Mind if I set my camera over here?
Not at all.
Awesome. So I know it's sitting on my stomach and I'm going to be seeing this all day. I'm breathing.
That was a great facility.
This is where I should have been to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, was the audio picking up pretty low?
Well, somebody put a comment in.
Well, if you want, if we can check with the guys there, if you want to put your portable camera to make a better recording, actually have it right up where they're speaking, like on the chair on the table with their projector.
Okay.
That might.
Let's see. I don't know what I'm doing right now, honestly. Okay. I think this gives me a good overall view. This microphone, I can probably move closer. Oh, sorry. Actually, lift up your chair leg. Perfect. Okay. So let's move this microphone.
Right off your back.
Tim, are you the next speaker?
Check the schedule. Yes.
They're in the center. They're in the center hall.
Everybody left?
I'll be back.
At the moment, anyway. That doesn't mean they won't be back. You probably want to go see the exhibits that's in the other room. Flyer. I put my flyer down someplace.
Lindner.
Lindner. Yeah. Any extra flyers around here? They seem to have misplaced mine. So I'd like to set it down someplace.
Yeah, I grabbed one earlier.
Flyers for lunch?
Yeah, the flyer that was, because I.
Wait, no, hold on. Yeah, here. Oh, no. I'll make sure you read that. No matter what it says. Nope, that's all right. I'll help you out sometime or other, but we appreciate you guys holding it.
Oh,
Just me and a dinner.
like I said before, the last time I was here was 97. So it's like, yeah. No, the flyer. Just needed a flyer because somewhere I put it down and I misplaced it.
Actually, it has changed.
You've been here for quite a long time, Tony.
Where? Here?
No, not here, but in the club scenario.
Yeah. What year were you born?
72, but I've been, the last time I was here was 97. So,
Well, I rolled into Glenside, I think, in '84, maybe '85.
yeah, because the club that I'm in was called the Metro Area Color Computer Club from the Omaha, Chicago, or Omaha, Council Bluffs area.
Ah, okay.
So last time we came, there was 5 of us. Unfortunately,
color computer program text box.
down to 2.
The box will come to you flat, and you'll need to be folded by hand. Step 1 is to get a nice flat.
I'm gonna go have the
and
professor
use the
chew
edge
up.
of the table to
Are you starting or is this just a
flat
test?
down near the small window.
Okay.
Anybody wants to be in the next room?
Edge again, the other edge down near the small window. And the reason why we use that is it's really easy to tear this small window. So, the first thing to do is to make that pretty by pre-folding those. Then we'll move to the back of the box and pre-fold the glue tab there and the side tabs. Move over to the front of the box and we'll pre-fold up there, pre-fold the bottom flaps. Pre-fold the side there, fold it over again on the next score, fold over again on the next score, and finally fold up on that score. Fold up on that perf, and then fold it over and around to create the ledge there for the cartridge. Turn the box over, lay it flat, fold it over the inside of the box, and then fold it over the back of the box. Being careful with that small window not to tear it. Turn the box over, lay it flat with your hand, and glue on the glue tab. And then do the final fold and seal. Pick up the box, fluff it out, and let's fold over the ledge there. It goes over like that. And then the two side tabs fold over, and finally the flap gets tucked in. This is a locking tab, so that's meant to go in and stay in. It will probably rip if you try to open it again. The top is different. The top is meant to open and close. Get that locking tab out of the way, tuck it in, and then the locking tab goes in to make sure the tab stays. And there we got our nice new folded red back box.
That's great that you guys are moving it and hosted it. We all stick together.
No, he probably had another reason to come other than just the CoCoFEST.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you again.
No, they're saying no Canada.
I don't know if you saw this is, you can get it off the website, you don't really need to go up. That's available up on the table up there. There's supposed to be a dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Beef and pork and chicken.
They asked me if I wanted to do it. I haven't made up my mind yet, so I hope I can still get in. I don't know what the
Well, I think 2 weeks ago we had to say.
When does the next presentation begin?
So we had a count then, and we added 30% to it, and went with that. So
Probably even today, what the cutoff is before I have to make a decision. So
the guy in the checkered shirt, the plaid.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a critical number of people.
He could probably.
You want to critical?
I haven't registered yet. Maybe I should go.
I believe it's my turn.
I thought we were gonna enter.
Well, it's not mine, I know that.
Check your phone.
I don't know if I'm believing you have a soul in the mind, but giving me how much you need to pay. That's the confusion. I mean, we can't put any money in my guess and how much change.
The house is one of the
Sure.
I need to register.
Is that the auction stuff?
Yeah.
Steve Strobridge. My vendor,
The good stuff's on the auction.
He's searching for escrow.
Yeah.
Did you still get the bidding wars?
He needs you to verify.
Did you still get the bidding wars that you got the old one?
They go.
Runs on the CoCo. What's on the CoCo? You go run.
S. Strobridge, that is name. 155 South Lake State Street, 14 I have never been. So the number is not correct. Oh, that's it. Then let me give you a different number. Okay. I'm sorry? Yes.
This actually runs on CoCo.
He is really two personalities.
Put it in here. Put it on top of CoCo. It runs on CoCo.
Technically it's just me, but I think Curtis is showing off one of his old computers there. Yes.
So are you selling football cards?
I'm gonna try.
So we got 3 games available. Farfall is $40. Extra crush is $30. Auto is $20. 3
Cool, good to know, thanks.
Sure.
$30, is that? Yes.
This is my official badge now. I'm official now. This whole time here, I've been a rogue agent. Just now gone to jail. Do I get a program guide as well? Oh, no, very nice.
Yeah, some colored ones and some black ones.
Thank you.
My wife and I are checking in, Melanie Mobley and John Martin.
Not live yet. Still streaming.
Have you got any feedback on the fruit peak ball speed ones? What's the URL?
It's live at OGStevestro.com. If I could find my headset, I would do that.
Oh, you're streaming this?
Yeah. Is this my coffee mug here, Curtis? One sitting on the table?
I think so, yeah. Unless this one's yours. Is that yours?
Honestly, I don't know. Black coffee. Drink it. I call dibs on it. Who's ever it was. Who's ever it
Or
was.
most of us don't have too many diseases. So this is all auction stuff here, so did you
Yeah,
have enough
I
to get
put-
a suitcase for all that?
Yeah, right. I put one of my copies in that everything.
It was fair enough warning, so I can start.
Slowly but surely. I made an announcement.
I know,
Now
you
hear
made it so
this.
easy, I couldn't refuse. How could I refuse that?
So now hear this.
All right, gonna start now. So my name's Tim Linder. I did a project recently for the color computer program pack boxes. I asked the organizers in the event if I could have 8 minutes to show the video. But what I didn't tell them is I have something else.
Yeah, we're up for surprise.
Really wonderful. Our community was also served by some remarkably talented educators. I think in particular, Bill.
I thought I had everything set up. Welcome to the instructional video for folding and gluing the color computer program pack box. The box will come to you flat, and you'll need to be folded by hand. Step one is to get a nice flat straight edge and use the edge of the table to fold that first flap down near the small window. And use the straight edge again to fold the other edge down near the small window. I really did set all this up.
Yeah, I saw it before.
Why we use that is it's really easy to tear this small window.
Projector's on, right?
The first thing to do is to take that trade.
Take two.
Take two.
Okay. So I don't feel as bad. I've got a small
This is like one else.
Okay.
Well, it's with real regret that it looks like I won't be able to be present at the 25th last CoCoFEST by the Glenside Color Computer Club. And I mean that, I'm not just saying that as a formality. This is Marty Goodman. And Tim Lindner very kindly offered to record a little bit so that I could say hello to folks at the fest. So this is my Mad Scientist lab here. It's where I very happily lay into countless nights tinkered on color computer hardware, attempted to break people's hardware protection, attempted to modify things, worked on, tested materials that became hardware tinkering, hardware hacking, articles in Rainbow. This even is the site of production of some products that were sold in Rainbow. Many of the custom video cables were built here by the son of an old friend of mine from medical school, who I believe now is a fairly high executive in Amazon. My how the time flies. I remember him busily soldering connections and my busily testing them and ship them off to Rainbow sellers. Oh well, those were the days. I have absolutely nothing but really warm memories of some of the really great people I met, both the general groups of color computer users and some of the so-called CoCo luminaries. It was a pretty fine bunch of folks. There's only one I'm still in touch with, Art Flexer of ADOS. I see him 3 or 4 times a year. He's retired, he left Miami, he's in New Jersey, and he and I are still very much in touch. But I've lost touch with most of the others. And man, what a fine bunch of folks. Dennis Kitts, Steve Bjork, Rick Adams, really bright, talented, interesting people. And it was that was one part of this that makes the whole thing, made the whole thing for me really wonderful. Our community was also served by some remarkably talented educators. I'm thinking in particular of Bill Martin. To this day, I'm impressed with his understanding of math and programming and his ability to convey that. We were very fortunate to have him among us. Anyways, I'm not sure what else to say other than sincerely express my regrets that I'm not here in Glenside, and wish all of you, those who I knew and who knew me, and those who I never met, the very best, and to continue to derive joy from this remarkable machine, now a piece of history, but not quite yet gone, it would appear.
I really tried to get him to come, but I am fortunate that I did get that out of him. Maybe next year, right?
Yep.
So next I have just a little movie I made about making of the box. Color computer program pack boxes are really cool. They have a window in the front that shows the actual manual of the game inside, and when you flip it to the side, you can see the actual cartridge. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their boxes and only have the manuals and the cartridges. For these people, I've decided to do a reproduction box, and this video documents how the box was made. The first step is drawing the die line. Once the die line is made, the artwork can be copied, including typesetting and all of the other graphic art. Then we lay out the pages following the planner's instructions. The files are ripped to a very high resolution and plotted on an aluminum plate. The plate comes out of the image center and is spun around to fit through the plate processor. After the plate has been processed, it is stacked. Down in the press room, the feeder opens the cartons of paper and stacks them into a load. Back in the die department, the operator identifies the cut, scores, and perfs on the press sheet. A blank die board is placed on top of the router table. Tools are chosen automatically. And the router starts cutting the slots. Next, the steel rules are bent in the rule bending machine. Here we see the operator applying glue to the bottom die board. Here is the top die board being registered with the bottom with metal pins. The two halves of the die board are placed in a vacuum frame to dry. After about 30 minutes, the die board is removed and the operator begins hammering in the metal rules.
For the admission tickets and 10 or whatever it was for the movie.
Now the operator places releasing rubber around the die cut.
We didn't pay for dinner.
Back at press, the feeder loads the paper. Then ink is loaded into the fountains of the press.
Whatever it said on the thing, that's what I said.
No, I only did set 15, that's the way you're gonna be out.
Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Then the pressman looks at the plates to analyze ink coverage. Now the pressman adjusts the ink keys for each fountain zone across the press sheet. Then the plates are ready next to their corresponding unit and loaded into the press. The press is started and the headstop and side guides are adjusted. The pressman makes the first pull and starts analyzing the sheet. After checking color, fit, and content, the sheet is signed and the run starts. Then the sheets are loaded into the die cutter. The die board the press is started. The sheets are fed into the headstop and side guide. Stamped and delivered. And the pressman checks his work throughout the run. Next, the sheets of paper are sent to the stripping department, where boxes are pulled from their parent sheets and stacked. In in the shipping department, the boxes are boxed and shipped out. So that's it. That was the video. As the final thing, I was wondering if Neil Blanchard would come up here. Marty is getting rid of his color computer stuff over time, and I'm taking it, I'm archiving everything. And it just so happened that I was listening to your podcast when you were doing the review of Marty's Nightmare. And you put out a request for a copy of Marty's Nightmare. I did. Well, at that very moment, I had picked up Marty's copy of Marty's Nightmare. Oh, wow. And I had him sign it for you. Oh, wow. No problem. Well, that's everything I have to show. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
So this whole process that you did, this was filmed while that particular package was being made.
Yes.
You have access to this. This is where you work, right?
Yes, this is where I work.
So they let you film everything.
I didn't ask.
Easier to get forgiveness. If someone wanted to do this and didn't have access to this equipment or know this industry, how difficult would it have been to get all this done?
Well, I would say really difficult. I wanted to make sure that I got a good price for my boss. The owner of the company is pretty stingy. So I went onto the internet and I put out the project to a bunch of websites that you can get boxes made. And every reply I got back was incorrect and would have produced bad boxes that would have been completely unusable.
And you know this from experience.
Yeah. So I'm going to say it's pretty difficult to get something good.
Yeah.
And that you should come to California and get your boxes made.
How many did you have made? You thinking?
I had 1,000 made.
Wow.
I also did some custom artwork for a couple people, but that's up to them to talk about.
So you're selling them now?
Yeah, I have a few on my table. $2.50 for each supply box.
Is this video available online?
It will be after the fest.
Nice.
I'll put it on the YouTube channel.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's everything.
That's awesome.
No, that was a high one. Okay. It was a 6-color 4-inch. Oh, that's not mine. I'm not.
There it is. You have a customer phone. You're set. Yes.
Well, our selection
No, I don't. I'm gonna take that. Sure. Sorry.
Our sponsor put out an email about 5 years ago saying that Marty wanted to get rid of some stuff. And if anybody was in the Bay Area, they should get in contact.
Yeah.
This happens on the 20 minutes.
Before I.
Oh, it was really just happened. And I was an avid reader of his magazine columns.
Yes,
It was just super fun.
Well, the first time I met him, that's why I'm asking, because I always saw you again.
Yeah.
That's really good question. That was great. And I think I'm good.
Well, you have to take a look at it.
Okay. We just had our first trip to,
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
we took one of those bikes.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
We found the
Oh, yeah, the young section.
We have the- So we had a great time out there.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. It's like the gap.
You guys can see yours?
Yeah, remember last year, Bob Swoger was giving me a hard time because I didn't have a sticker and I paid it.
Well, if somebody wants this one back, I can plug it in.
Too much of a problem for some.
That's not very soft. Do you want me to use that one instead of this one this year? I don't know if you use that one. I also have an extension.
Oh, is there a? Yeah, the problem is, yeah, that's what I'm. That's the problem, yeah. That's probably the other one.
I wish I had I would rather, if I had another extension cord, I would just leave this thing plugged in and let it broadcast live. Now I don't have to do it.
Yeah, I guess.
How long one do you need?
Well, where's the next closest outlet? Looks like there might be some outlets over here.
Yeah, you can picture the box if you want.
Thanks, well, okay.
No, it's in the,
I don't know what the next one is.
Great opening.
But did it originally have like that, play waves and stuff, or does it, I thought it doesn't have just tone generators?
Over here's that.
Oh, you wrote the software to play the wave. That's really cool. That's all right. I don't know what tradition that stuff works. Yeah, that's cool. PC's on my car.
All right. Let's see. I'm doing all the around
Anybody have any cellophane tape?
There's some here.
Nada? No tape? No tape. How about up here? You guys have any tape?
Yes.
Would we borrow some? Chris wants us if we have some. Light one? How do you turn the light on? Oh, gotcha.
There it is.
Thank you.
Yes, it's time for me to pay out. My name is Tim Linder. What program is this?
This is something.
Oh, wow, my old address is in the database.
Old address. That's the word.
I don't know, now is the, what's that? Oh, is that what it said? Do you want to update the address here and now, or is that something that you
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Unless, actually, I took over Boise's table. Did he already pay? Probably not. I need to pay Boise. You wanna do it that way, that's fine.
It was a stereo, no, it was obviously.
Somebody could probably.
Oh, somebody could.
Maybe.
There's nothing wrong with the meters, except I didn't use them. I put the reset button on the front, reset it. Yeah.
I had.
That's two.
Well, that's two. And I used to read it all used to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hacking. Touching the touch screen.
I didn't take anything for it either.
Oh, really?
So when Boise said he wanted it, I said, well, I had it, and I've been doing it 2 years. Boise, if you want it, I'll get it to you.
I know.
So now it's up in his head.
Done some.
John Mark Motley?
Is it John Mark?
Might have been.
Okay, he was singing on, trying to guess, which he, the original covers, and I have several original covers. For the model.
So, who's John down here? Right in the door.
Hey, John, you were looking for covers for PC equipment?
So we're in between,
One of your podcasts mentioned
discussion.
for dust covers.
So why don't I take you
Original
guys?
production.
Well, I did
dust
say
covers.
15. I haven't seen the check you cash.
And I've got the wrong name.
All right, wasn't you?
The podcaster guy is over there.
It wasn't Coco Crew, it was Floppy Days.
Oh, that's Randy Kindy.
Darn.
He's supposed to be here. Well, he said he would try to come.
Yeah, he had mentioned he had some old, check stuff, and he was looking at dust covers. Got the original color computer dust cover. And then I got the cassette deck dust cover. And then I've got a model too that I actually ended up using because it covered my monitor and my keyboard all at once.
I've got some trophies for our. I was trying to think who we should give them to. I think it's just a suggestion. People I suggest and get one. I thought maybe when I was older. Jeremy, Wally.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I thought maybe Wally should get.
I have trouble getting things together.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, sorry. I don't know. Where do you want me to?
There's plenty of people coming through.
Oh, I don't know. My wife and I would sit there and she'd read it. Have to save it off to the cassette.
I thought John was wrong because of the 3D printer stuff. That's just.
We got the best seating now.
I don't know if I should go in there and announce it or what.
Yeah, you might seem to be up there.
Yeah, well, you might go ahead and remind them that.
Yeah. I'm about to start.
You have a microphone down.
I think, yeah, if only. I'll try to talk about it.
It's not very long, but we can use it to extend it.
John Linville took care of it for me.
Okay, sounds good.
No.
Sounds good.
Tell you how long I got with my laptop.
Cool. Yeah. Except for when you
Gotta get my camera set back up again.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Mind if I set this here now?
Not at
Let's
all.
see. Gotta get my homemade stand back up.
I might have to move this now because I have to,
All right.
to get the,
Yeah, you got a longer one? Yeah. Go.
Oh, your battery's going dead?
well, if I can keep it plugged in, then I can let this run all day.
Yeah.
You want to plug that one into that one or?
Yeah.
Mind if I move your microphone a little bit?
No.
We got more than one head on here too?
Yeah. Great. Keep my camera running. Good. Okay. That solves that problem.
Sure.
Too much or right with my hand.
Oh, okay. Wow, it was scary.
All of the frustrated.
The village uses table here.
Yeah, you got multiple cameras on you, so don't get nervous. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, all right. So, I guess I should introduce myself for the vast majority of you that don't know me. My name is Brendan Donahe. I'm from Austin, Texas. And so a little bit of background about me. I had an Apple II Plus growing up. So,
Take it outside.
So I initially had an Apple II Plus. Dad brought that home in the early 80s. And that wasn't maybe a year or two later. I realized the error of my ways and missed having a computer in my bedroom. So he helped me get a CoCo 2. And John was talking about having a mentor in your life. That was Dad, because when we first brought home that CoCo 2, the box said 64K extended color basic. Didn't mean anything to me. We hooked it up, and Dad said, "Now the screen says color basic," and Rick Mann says, "You have too little memory." So we went right back to Radio Shack and brought home the right CoCo 2. So that was Dad. He helped me get started with basic and machine coding and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm here today to talk about CoCo VGA, which is a simple project intended for 6847 based machines. So I'll go through that in a little bit more detail. I'll have an introduction. I'll talk about the history of the project because, unbeknownst probably to most folks, this actually has been going on, unfortunately, for 5 years in my spare time. Current status, and then I'll give you some technical details for those that are interested. So this project was actually inspired by Matthew Haggerty's F-18A project. So for those of you guys who don't know, that's a TI-99-4A video chip. So it just so happens that's also the one that's using the ColecoVision. So he actually has a direct replacement for the TMS 9918A video display processor, and he sells that. And it's an awesome chip. It's great. But I always felt like I would just get hypnotized by the poor video quality, just the waves of interference on my TV and stuff like that on my CoCo 2. And I always felt like it needed something better. Composite is a huge step, and with the availability of that things have improved significantly. But even composite, monitors with composite are getting a little bit more and more rare. So so the goal of this project is actually to enable 6847 based systems, including a CoCo 1 and 2, MC10, and 10 Dragon output VGA. So here's a picture of my messy bench with an early prototype. I actually have that one at my table. When Steve Spiller, who's a friend of mine in Washington State, and I started this in 2011, it was originally planned to be a 6847 replacement. We had a little bit of trouble with the timing and switched to snooping. So meaning that the 6847 has to be in place, and then we look at the digital signals going in and out of the 6847. We don't mess with the analog signals. And this, like I said, this picture is an early board. This is a Xilinx Spartan 3E with a Digilant board, and then the PERC board here just has level shifters on it. So there's the purchase board with a VGA connector, a breakout board, the PERC board with level shifters, and then it's basically piggybacked on top of a 6847 that was coming to. So there were some other I would still like to at some point do a replacement as opposed to snooping. I think now that I understand 6847 a little more, I think that'll be possible at some point. But there are some advantages to doing the snooping because when you do that, well, the 6847 can still output analog video that can go to the modulator or a composite board, and then you can actually display on both a VGA monitor and a composite monitor or TV at the same time. Let's see here. And so like I said, this is an early prototype that we actually dealt with for a couple of years. But it's pretty obvious that there's a couple feet worth of traces and ribbon cable there that with video and even a couple megahertz, it doesn't play so well. Yeah. So last year I contacted Ed Snyder and kind of showed him what we had going so far, and he was willing to work with me on putting together a board. So so the idea was, of course, to improve the signal integrity. He also talked me into moving to an Altera Cyclone 4E. So anyway, this is the VGA board right here. You can actually come on my table and check it out. So normally you'd see the modulator can here. It just so happens that I also have his composite board installed here. Okay, so where we are today. So right now, the alphanumerics and Cinegraphics 4, switching between the CoCo 2 and CoCo 3 font sets, that works fine. The most common graphic modes, including artifacting, work fine. I basically have to emulate the artifacting. So there's some enhancements that I threw in there so far. Being able to switch artifact colors. I don't know if anybody else is tired of hitting reset until they get the 6847 on the right edge of the clock. So be able to switch back and forth between those. Double wide pixels, right? Because the way artifacting works is it's basically the highest resolution monochrome mode is either on off or off on, and those give you the red and blue as well. So you can get the vertical lines out of that, or you can make them double wide, and then you basically get half the resolution. Select between that, or you can disable it and basically make it monochrome. So RG6 is monochrome black and white at the highest resolution the CoCo can output. And then reverse video, in case you're getting tired of the green background, turn on and off the border. I think another enhancement that Ed asked me for was adding scan lines, so that's in there as well. That was pretty straightforward. So let's see here, and then I still have quite a laundry list of to-dos. So some of the long cycle modes, and I'll talk a little bit more about what a long cycle mode and a short cycle mode is with respect to 6847 here, not too long. Aren't supported yet. So these are some of the intermediate high-res graphics modes, monochrome especially. There's some video quality issues on some VGA monitors. I did a mini CoCoFEST last week and discovered that not all monitors are quite happy with the video signal yet, so I still got some work to do there. I still need to test SG6, SG12, and SG24. I suspect that once SG6 is working, that the other ones will just fall out. Because that's really, those really come from the SAM more so than an extra mode of 6847. Today, we don't have 6847 T1 compatibility. I think Ed will probably have to make a different board just because of the pinout difference. The other major difference is that the latch that's normally on the older systems is outside the 6847. So when they pulled that in and added lowercase from T1, right? Now it works a little bit different. And then production boards. So right now I think there's only 2 prototype boards in existence. Ed has one, I have one. Ed has already put together some production boards for the original 6847. I don't know if he has them populated yet. I haven't actually gotten one in my hand yet, but that will hopefully come soon. So yeah, some of the challenges that we've kind of run into along the way are variations in signal timing based on the clock edge use, power up clock edge used by the 6847. Right, this affects the artifact colors and things like that. So the way I deal with that is by actually running the FPGA at a much higher clock frequency and actually sampling both edges of the clock and actually producing a pulse on both the positive and negative edge of the 6847 clock. There are variations in the signal timing, depending whether we're doing long cycle or short cycle. So I got to resolve that. And then up until I think 2 weeks ago, I obviously had a misunderstanding about how the SAM interacted with the 6847, and I'll talk about that particular bug just a little bit more here in just a second. So this is kind of the start of getting into more of the technical details. So talk a little bit about the differences between VGA and the CoCo style NTSC. So the pixel clock is considerably slower. You'd say, well, gee, why can't I just use a line doubler? Because I got 60 fields per second, 60 hertz refresh rate for 640 by 480 VGA. Well, just line double it. Well, it's not really that simple. And part of that is kind of related to the pixel clock. So anyway, basically the half of the FPGA is running at this frequency and dealing with sampling this information, and half of it is running at the VGA output frequency. So what I did to try to preserve the black border is take in the basically double the pixels in each direction. So we get a 512 within 640 and 384 inside 480, and that the visible green field typically, right, and a black border around the outside. And then another aspect is of course that the CoCo runs at 5 volts and the FPGA only likes 3.3, so we have the level shifters. Let's see here. So back a couple years ago, this was how I probed. This is a 16K color basic CoCo 2. Not that it really matters, but here I've got basically a probe connected to the top of the 6847, and then all my probes run into my logic analyzer. And so I have some traces of the sort of data that I pulled off of this. So here's an example of a text mode capture. This is a short cycle capture. I set up DD here, probably a little bit of a eye chart. I'll just tell you what's here. So I set up one of these rows to actually decode ASCII data. So this is 8 bits worth of data. It decodes it into ASCII. So what it actually says there as it's reading, so address 0 shows up 4 cycles later. You sample the data line. So C, address 1, 4 cycles later, sample the O, sample L, O, R, space, B, A, S, I, C, right? Just like it says up there. So this, waveform basically happens, with horizontal syncs on either end, 12 times for a text screen, because there's 12 rows of pixels per character. This will happen 12 times, and then you move on to the next row of characters. This will happen 12 times. The same trace will happen. And then the decoding for the ASCII, of course, happens in the 6847. So it knows what row it's on, and then therefore displays, the appropriate combination, mix of green or black pixels. Let's see here. Yeah, so I guess I should mention that, even though this was the first mode that I looked at, graphics data is generally simpler. Instead of having ASCII data here, you just have an 8-bit bit field that represent either color or, on or off information about, a handful of pixels that the 6847 wants to output. So this was the issue that I think, there's actually websites that talk about it since then that I was not aware of. But what happens between, so this is a full row of data. So here's horizontal sync low, horizontal sync low. So this is a full, full scan across the top of the screen. So you see here's address 0, counts up to hex 1F. So 32 characters across. And then the 6847 just keeps right on counting. You say, well, okay, that's fine, whatever. I can still sample that data. Well, only address 0 line goes to the SAM. The SAM increments its own internal counters. So once the 6847 address rolls over, it's actually reading the next line, and the 6847 doesn't know it. So what this was causing was a shift in pixels. You get the next row of pixels partway through the line up to address 9. So anyway, so I made a simple fix to basically stop storage after the 6847 rolls over. But anyway, and then going back to the long and short cycle stuff, this is a short cycle. Like I said, it's 4 clocks. The long cycle, the address stays on here for 8 cycles, and then you expect to see the data 8 cycles after the initial address change. Let's see. So this is kind of the general board architecture of how it's laid out. You've got the PIA, and these are basically the mode bits that you code either by using P mode or hopes or what have you. That set your color state, your graphics mode, and either alpha or graphics modes. Right? Those are the VDG. You got the VDG requesting an address, and like I said, only address 0 goes to the SAM. SAM provides a full 16-bit address back to the RAM. RAM provides the data back. So basically what CoCoVGA is doing is it's sitting and watching data going into the VDG. It's watching the address coming out of the VDG, and of course watching the mode bits, and then produces its own VGA video from that. Oh, and I guess I should also mention, this kind of varies from system to system, but on the CoCo pins DD6, data 6 is connected to the inverse, and 7 is connected to alpha versus semi-graphics. All right, and then this is the internal architecture of CoCo VGA. So if you could kind of blow up what's inside the FPGA itself. So here's all the signals that I'm switching, right? The frame sync, horizontal sync, data address, the different mode bits, and basically the sync generator and the clocks basically tell the state machine inside the address data capture when to capture the data, and information about the frame sync lets it know whether it should write to frame buffer 0 or frame buffer 1. Basically, this is a ping pong buffer system where the idea is that you write into the frame that you're not displaying, and you display from the frame you're not writing into, because otherwise you end up with tearing data, right? So and then those get dumped out to the PixelGen module, and then that produces RGB. PixelGen is the one that decodes, depending on the mode, it says, oh, I need to produce a text, or I need to decode the bits in there to color or particular pixels. So I think that's all I had. Thanks for attending. It's only been a very shallow dive. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I don't want to take everybody's time. So you know, just come by my table, or if you have some simple questions now, I'd be happy to take them. Boise, yeah.
So the final product will be a snooper, or will it be a total replacement of the seat?
We'll probably start by making the snooper available, just because it'll be available sooner.
Okay.
You know, so folks with soldered 6847s will have to desolder and put in a socket. Yeah. The good news is that you can put your 6847 right into this board, so you know you don't have to piggyback on top of it.
Right? Will you have to make two variations of the board for the 6847 and the T1?
I believe so. It's been a little while since I've looked at the pinouts, but I think they're different enough that probably have to.
But the advantage of the snooping too is that it'll use the RF can as well as the VGA.
Exactly. Okay. So Ed is trying to talk me into the possibility of outputting the analog signal from the FPGA as well with replacement, but I'm not keen on that. We'll have to see how things go.
How about combining that with the ROM replacement for the character generator?
So that's another thing that I mentioned to Ed. You know, we actually talked about that a little bit, and one of the things we discussed was actually making the boards field upgradable. If you have a bike blaster cable and you're willing to download a course and build your own Duralog and stuff like that, or I can provide images on my website or something like that, then people could upload it and actually change their font sets, and then yeah, you can select between them. So that's an enhancement that we're considering.
Right.
So sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, if you do the double speed mode, does that make it go crazy?
I don't think so, but you know, now that you mentioned it, I guess that's something I should test. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah. So the CoCo 2, that was the 0654970 would make it go something crazy.
Yeah, did it screw up the SIM refresh or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give that a try. It's been a while.
So your block diagram, it looked like your address generations, one more before that, I think. Yeah, it looks like the CoCo VGA is not taking any address lines from SAM.
That's right. And there's multiple reasons for that. One, the main reason is because I didn't want to have to probe the SAM and the VDG, right?
Right.
Basically, the easiest place to probe the VDG is at the VDG socket, right?
Yeah. So that means then you're gonna have to snoop the SAM accesses if you want to implement the SAM graphics modes.
Yeah, I'm guessing that, yeah, we may have problems with, you know, SG12 and SG24 without knowing what the SAM is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be an issue. So, yeah, it's a valid point. All right, any other questions?
I think it was great.